which is detailed out on page 44. The one thing I do want to talk about with regards to the finding is the auditing standards um, classify findings into different severity levels. Most severe is going to be a material weakness. And so a material weakness is something that's resulted in a material error to the financial statement document itself, and it warrants the attention of the governing body. A significant deficiency is sort of the next step down. So it may not have actually resulted in a material error, but it, in combination with other factors, may be at high risk of resulting in some type of material issue, simply in the reporting and the financial statement document itself. And so that's where this particular finding fell, was in that significant deficiency bucket.
Mr. Chair,
yes.
and Eric, I don't think we don't have the actual audit. We just have your presentation. Will we get the actual audit?
Yes, I believe there are paper copies that have been mailed to you, but well, we can provide electronic copies, of course, as well.
I'd prefer an electronic copy, and for the purposes of transparency in a room full of interested people, and for the minutes. Can you speak to the finding and the negative assurance, like the specifics of those?
And
that's a good
and
point.
Just one other thing, you really need to talk right into that mic, because you're kind of coming over like this, and then right over here, and then over here.
No problem. I can work on that. Okay, so Mr. Chair, to your question, and just to clarify what the finding was in relation to, and I will also mention that all of this information is publicly available on the state auditor's website. They have a database with the financial statement document itself, publicly available. But the finding was in relation to the billings process, and so this is primarily caused by turnover and a lack of a consistent financial accountant working with BDD, and that's a role that y'all have worked through hiring and so forth over the past couple of years. But essentially, it was an issue with the way that those billings with all of your partners were getting reconciled. And so, CLA came in and consulted in order to help sort of sort through all of those things. And one of the results of their work was that there was a restatement required to the financial statement document itself. And so this finding is around the process that resulted in those outcomes. So process of reconciling billings with your partners, which is something that should take place, periodically throughout the year, whether it's quarterly, monthly, and so forth. There was just a little bit of inconsistency in that process.
If I can follow up on that, that was something that I think I had heard last year as well. Was that a recurring?
Correct. This was a repeat finding from FY23.
Okay. And I guess this is just then a question for staff. Do we have a remedy for this? Do we have, we're 6 months into this new year. Do we think we have it fixed?
Chair Green, thank you for that question. Yeah, we've moved forward with offering a position out to certain applicants, or one applicant in particular. And so we're hoping that we alleviate that. But to speak to what Mr. Sperling is saying, there was inconsistency because the billing wasn't going out on time every month, and we were behind due to not having staff in place. But since CLR has come out and helped us, Kurt, he has been taking care of us, and we're all caught up on our billing.
Mr. Chair, it would be CLA.
Yes.
And our consultant is in the back there.
In the back. And so Kurt, maybe you can say to the affirmative, probably into the microphone is even better, but do you think, have you been able to get ahead and consistently take care of this?
Absolutely, Chair Green. I think we did have a accounting supervisor in place. I trained her up on all the processes required to do monthly billing. She was doing monthly billing. After she left, I continued the process. And I think we are generally running, I've done the February billing to the partners, did not quite get March billing out in April, but it will be done next week. So I think we're doing a consistent process monthly and reconciling the partner payments as they come in too. So that issue that we had, the significant deficiency, seems to have been resolved, and we're providing continuity right now as CLA support.
Okay, great. I'm a big fan of automation, especially for something that happens every month and for relatively easy financial things. So if there's a way that some best practice that you know of that can be implemented and make it easier for whoever comes in, especially when you have someone new that comes in, right? You know, you can teach them new good habits as opposed to stick with some old bad habits. So, but thank you. You may continue.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So continuing on, I'm not sure where my presentation went, but I think you all have it in front of you as well.
We do. So,
So we like to always report back to you what, according to the auditing standards that we audit to, what our responsibilities are, what management of BDD's responsibilities are. So responsibilities of the auditor, we're here to form and express an opinion on those financial statements and whether they are presented materially correctly in accordance with the reporting standards. We obtain reasonable assurance, not absolute assurance. So that's to say that we're not going to look at every single transaction throughout the course of the audit. If we did, we probably would never leave. And so I don't think that's something that Brad wants. We'll try and stay out of your hair as much as we can, obviously. Additionally, we consider internal control processes and procedures that helps us assess risk and understand what areas we need to focus on more. And then communication of significant matters, which is what we did during the entrance conference, exit conference, this meeting, and so forth, just to keep governing body and management in the loop as to what we've done, what our results are, and so forth. Additionally, the responsibility of management of BDD. So with the oversight of the governing body, management should be establishing and maintaining internal control policies and procedures and monitoring those activities on an ongoing basis. Selection of accounting principles, fair presentation of the financial statement document. So although we assist in assembling the financial statement document, ultimately management has to take ownership of that document and is responsible for its completeness and accuracy. And then your internal control policies and procedures should also be designed to consider what could go wrong in any fraud considerations that may exist within your organization, things that you think could possibly happen. You want to design control procedures around that. And then governing board participation through the entrance and exit conference. So I'll speak very briefly as to what our reporting changes were during FY24. So the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, who really writes the rules of how the financial statement document gets presented and how transactions are reported, they're constantly changing what that looks like, what the rules are. So during 2024, there was one new standard that went into effect. That was GASB Statement 100, which relates to how prior period error corrections and reclassifications, implementations of new standards, how those get reported in the financial statement documents. This did have an effect on BDD's financial statements. As I mentioned earlier, you had a restatement related to those partner billings. So that's where the impact was there. Additionally, looking forward, GASB Statements 100 and 102 will go into effect for FY25. Those relate to how accrued vacation and vacation liability gets reported, certain risk disclosures, which I believe is really a reflection of bringing consistency to how risks of the organization get reported in a financial statement coming out of the COVID-19 timeframe. There was a lot of inconsistency because there was no existing guidance in that area previously. And then moving on to FY26, GASB Statement 103, 104 relating to financial reporting model improvements. That's really a mixture of different items, just improving the reporting standards. And the GASB 104, disclosure of certain capital assets, which tends to focus on very specific buckets of capital assets, things like if a property is held for sale, how's that supposed to be reported and so forth. So those are being evaluated on a continuing basis as it relates to BDD. Off the cuff, I think GASB 101 is probably the area where there may be a little bit of an impact on your financial statements moving forward. And just, our value-added suggestions, treat CRI as a year-round resource. We're a big believer that although we're your auditor for maybe 4 or 5 months out of the year, The best way to prevent issues is to consult early and often. So we're a resource to you at all times. GASB training and guidance, as I mentioned, that got a little technical, I know. But the standards are changing at a rapid pace. That's something that we specialize in. So if there's ever assistance needed there, we're available to you. And then information technology. Y'all have probably heard this plenty up to this point, but the IT landscape is continuing to change at a rapid pace. So we do encourage you to continually be evaluating your IT environment and security, having, outside contractors come in and test that, having your internal IT, take a look at your firewalls and so forth in order to make sure that you're protected. Because unfortunately, state and local government gets targeted more and more every year. And with that, I just want to say a big thank you, to Brad and his team. It's been really great to work with you all, and we appreciate the support. An audit is a heavy lift. It's a team sport, and we request quite a bit of information, and so we appreciate the support there. We view you all as a member of our team. We appreciate the opportunity to serve BDD and hope to continue to build on that relationship on into the future. With that, I will stand for any questions that you all might have.
Any questions? Nope. 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 Yes, sir.
So not so much a question about the audit. This is just on that last IT recommendation. I don't know necessarily how BDD's IT operations differ from the cities, although I'm sure there are the mechanics of operating the plant, which are probably come into play there. Is the city, is BDD undertaking those efforts, and how often does that happen?
Board member alternate, what are you referring to?
The value-added suggestion that the IT landscape is continually changing and at a rapid pace. BDD should continue to assess and test the IT environment and cybersecurity to help BDD adapt, whether internally or through outside consultation. So
Absolutely, we're doing that internally, and then we have our own internal IT guys, and then we're also leaning on the city for help in that direction.
Are you specifically asking about cybersecurity or just general IT support?
More about cybersecurity, just because we do hear about various grids being hacked and
Targeted.
challenged by foreign operators. So
Yeah, IT monitors a lot of what we do, but we also have our internal firewalls for the water department and BDD.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
we had just gotten a presentation through the budget hearings on the IT work that's going on, and it's very focused on cybersecurity and the risks to local governments.
thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions down here? Okay, so just to be clear, in this presentation, it went through a bunch, but there should have really been a page specifically speaking to the two findings or those things, like lots of pro forma in here, but the things that really look at who we are and what we're doing and where areas to improve would have been really good to literally have a page that says, these are the two. Oh, do I not have that in my thing? Yeah, it didn't spell out what they were in that. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, to your point, I think that's why it would be helpful to have the audit itself, because the audit will have the finding
Yeah.
and it'll have management response. And that's what I was asking about earlier. So I don't know. Yeah, I think it's important that the board have that pamphlet. And I'm not sure where it was mailed to. It seems like it's been out for a while and I haven't received it here at City Hall. So if you could check on the hard copy, that'd be good. But I think in the interim, to the chairman's point, it would be good to have that electronically as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, first of all, I want to let you know that I do appreciate the feedback and we'll definitely take that to heart. I'm not sure where the hiccup was in the logistics. Typically, our goal is to have that report with you for this presentation so that you can flip to the pages that are being referenced. I did want to clarify one point, which is there is only one finding. Whenever you see negative assurance in that slide presentation, that's
Mhm.
speaking to this governmental report requirement that the report itself is a negative assurance report. So I just wanted to clarify that there's only one.
That one finding, yeah, okay. But that one finding is great. Keep it to a minimum. 0 is better than 1, 1 is better than 2. But calling it out in it, especially when you have a summary like this, it's an easy way for us to show it and people don't have to go through a full thing. But thank you very much. Thanks for working with our team to make sure we're doing the right things.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Ms. Oster, do you have any comments in this space?
Mr. Chair and members of the governing, the board, I'm sorry. No, I'm happy to answer any questions and I can get the audit report over to Brad as soon as I get back to my office. So we'll get it distributed to you during the meeting.
Thank you. And I don't know if it's a protocol to include it in a packet, like as part of our packets, but if that is the case, let's not do it retroactively to this packet, but let's include it for the next packet so that we can have it distributed and for history sake.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, actually, I'd like to have it in both packets, perhaps. Put it in the one for this, because if somebody's going back
And
looking for it and it's not there, and then maybe just have it for the next one.
and we'll just make a note of it as an agenda item for next time, just to say it is a here. We're not going to go over it, but actually we should go over it, even just for a moment, just so that we've had a chance to review the whole thing and if we have no comments, then it's no comments, but we make a note of it in the next meeting. So just
Mr. Chair, okay, clarifying question, just to make sure I understand. So you would like the presentation of the audit report to be on the next BDD agenda as a presentation with the document attached?
so let's attach the audit to this packet, so it's available in this packet. But then let's also include it in the next packet with an item. So if there were any comments that during the next month we were able to come up with some things that we weren't able to discover in this one, that the board could bring those up at the next meeting. We don't need the presentation from the auditor per se, although. But
Yeah, just one caution, Mr. Chair, is that actually the only person that can really answer your questions, if you have them about the audit, is the auditor. That's not Director Oster's role.
gotcha.
So that would require having the auditor come back.
Okay.
So and again, it is one finding. I think we're pretty clear about what it is.
Okay. Well,
So I'm not sure it's necessary to put it on the agenda. I'm actually not even sure it's necessary to put it in the next packet. It should, I think it should be attached to this packet, because that's where, when people are looking through agendas, when they see that the audit was presented at this meeting, they're going to be looking for the supporting material. So I think it would be appropriate to just have it uploaded to this and presented to us as soon as possible.
okay, and I'm good with that. And if somebody from the board wants to bring something up at the next meeting based on that, they can do that from their own thing. But thank you very much. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Moving right along. We are on to action items. A request for approval of a professional services contract with AECom Technical Incorporated for the amount not to exceed $2,671,875, including an MGRT for owner's representative services for a 4-year term. Nancy, take it away.
Yes, Mr. Chair and members of the board, we're very pleased to bring to you the owner's rep contract for your approval with AECom Technical Services. Also with me tonight and in the audience, some of you may not know him, is Dan Frost, who has been working on this project with me. As you know, he was the attorney with Snell and Wilmer, who represented us in the litigation resulting in the settlement funds for the refurbishment, repair of the project. So just some history on the owner's rep, and this is coming at a very good time because we're now entering phase 2 of the RFQ. The owner's rep then can be there to assist us with this next phase of the RFQ on the design build. We did go out with an RFP for an owner's representative. That was a failed procurement. There was no one qualified. that submitted a proposal. So city procurement recommended, or at least offered to us, the option of utilizing their procurements for owner's rep services and engineering services that had already been procured. Basically a piggyback kind of procurement. There were 3 available firms that did owner's rep kind of services that had contracted with the city, and staff and consultants looked at those firms pretty carefully. Everyone agreed that AECom was the top choice for owner's representative services. That started a process of communication with AECom to see if they would agree to do the job, what more information they needed, and eventually resulting in the contract that you have before you. The representatives of their team, they put together a team that would likely be the subject matter areas that they would need their expertise on. They went to the BDD facility, did a thorough tour and had a conversation about it. And they are ready and willing to go on this project. Also provided in the packet is a list of the team members. Now, this could change depending on what phase we are in, but in this initial phase, these are the team members that they have identified with their relevant experience and the areas within which they would work. And you can see that it's very multidisciplinary. You've got engineering experts, you've got sediment experts, and permitting personnel. And so this is who they have identified with their relevant experience that would be the team that would be working on it. Primary will be John Sikora, who's the first name mentioned there. He is familiar with the city. He's done work here, is doing work for the city. And I think everyone that has worked with him and with AECom has been very impressed. So they come with some good references. So we are pleased to move to this stage of getting a owner's representative on board to represent you as we move forward with the design build project.
Fabulous. Thank you for getting this teed up for us. Counselor.
So you need a motion on this to approve this contract from?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
I do.
Any questions just before we go to a motion? Yes?
Yeah, I just, and this, I think, guess it's mostly because I'm new, but how does this relate to, I mean, it doesn't relate, I guess, but what is phase 2 of the RFQ that's due tomorrow?
Right, so that is the design build project. So that will be the design and construction of the work that is to be done on the facility. That is a separate procurement, and phase 1 of that was called a request for qualifications. So we did have, that was met, and we do have, someone out there. There were submittals, and now they were notified that they have qualified. They must submit for phase 2 that is due tomorrow. It's basically a schedule, kind of a scope of work and some pricing. And then the committee will evaluate that according to some criteria and decide if they move on from there to contract negotiations and award of that RFQ. That will come to the board once we have concluded that process, and hopefully have a negotiated contract at that time. If we need to discuss having any negotiations with the board, we can do that in executive session if necessary. And that phase we're hoping to have done in the next several months.
So there's only one respondent basically for tomorrow?
Well, that is all confidential. We do not, and I'm not part of the committee, so we are not clear about that. We do not know who they are, but the committee does, and so they'll be evaluating that.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chair and Commissioner, I think, so this is an active procurement, which is why while it's going through the procurement process, it's a confidential process until we approve an award, I
Right.
think is how that works, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, and the owner's rep process is not a procurement process any longer. That was already concluded by the city, and we're just able to utilize that procurement that was already completed.
Right. So who's on the committee then to decide?
On which one?
for the
RFQ
RFQ.
number 2, phase 2 RFQ.
Our consulting engineer is Wayne Lorenz. I think our facilities manager is. Mr. Roach may be on that, or Dr. Roach may be on that committee too. I'd have to look at that. We've had some personnel changes, so we're trying to figure that out now, but
And I think Brian Snyder from Santa Fe County is on that as well, if I saw on the list.
I think that's right. As the representative from the county.
Okay, so is the engineer we're approving a contract for this time, are they going to help with the selection or just later?
They are,
They're not on the committee for selection.
they're not on the committee for
Right.
selection, but they will be able to help us once the committee concludes their evaluation and tenders their report to the city, and then we can move on. And at that point, they would be involved.
Yeah, thank you for explaining all that to me.
Yeah, it's complicated process that we're going through here.
Fabulous. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Just a couple questions and maybe a recommendation. Just on the fee schedule that was handed to us separately, I'm assuming that the fees that we're seeing here are consistent with the fees that AECOM charges the city under its overall contract. There's not a big difference between those.
Yes, the AECOM has represented to us that these are the fees they charge the city.
Okay. You. And then in looking at Exhibit A,
Mhm.
which is the scope of work piece there, I was trying to get a feel for what the engagement of the BDD board would be on, ultimately the selection, right? Whereas we're not just getting one thing and it's choose yes or no kind of a deal. And in the past, I've gone through a decision analysis type of a framework with design engineers and stuff, where essentially they're looking at the pros and cons of different options and laying those out so that the ultimate decision maker understands, that the risks associated with moving forward in one direction, what your opportunities are, pros and cons and so on. But I think that would be project management perhaps in here, but it's nothing like that is called out specifically. And I think it would be worthwhile and it could be a closed session, executive session type of a process or others where we really get a feel for what are the different things that could be done to solve the problems that are there and what are we trying to optimize for, what's not being optimized for, and that might lead down different paths. So just a suggestion, it as something to be included in the scope. And I know that John Sikora and others have gone through that multiple times because I think I've done it with them in the past, and AECOM and those individuals, in my experience, have done a really good job for projects they did for the ISC or others we were involved in. I just wanted
That's
to
good to
mention that.
Okay,
But if we could do that piece, I think it'd be very helpful.
thank you. Certainly visit with them about that.
Yeah, I guess I'm a little concerned based on a meeting we had a little earlier with Dan Frost about our role in this and how we use our consultants and also how we use the expertise and not it's been a long week and day and night and but how that we're not supplanting our I just think we do not have the technical expertise to. I'm concerned about our technical level of expertise and directing too much from up here, which is why we're hiring people. So I'm not sure where how our role is and isn't.
If I could add, I don't think it's really, in that case, is a technical.
Okay.
Their job is to do those things.
Yeah.
But through decision analysis, you have a way of looking at various components of the project or long-term operations where you can separate that out so that the decision makers understand when they're making a decision what the possible consequences of that are. I've been through many different types of things where that doesn't happen, and then there's buyer's remorse.
Okay.
Yes, and I think to that conversation, I think there could be times when the owner's rep would say, this is a good time to go to the board, or we need to go and make a decision about, this recommendation. We'll tell you why we're making the recommendation. I think that very well could happen.
Yeah, I think some methodology and understanding in a matrix, we may not, just so that we can be advised and understand how they got to their decisions.
Yeah.
Not necessarily that we're going to overrule them, but we go, oh, that seems like a good logic, rather than just rubber stamping. So
Right.
I value that too.
I think there could be presentations on that. We just don't want them to make the recommendations and make the decisions, so we don't get into that.
Certainly
Right,
don't say choose A, B, or C, right? They should be very, we think A and B maybe, but only because of these other considerations. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Couple of questions. I have tried to read through everything pretty thoroughly, and on the qualifications, which list the various participants in the process, there are two columns. One is diversion design, and the other sedimentation analysis. I'm curious what each of those means in terms of expertise. And I do note that under the diversion design, I know while there was one gentleman, Ned Andrews, who worked on a principal investigator on the Yampa River Basin stream channel study. Most of the other diversion design opportunities seem to have been around reservoirs, lakes, other similar sorts of, if you will, more still water than moving water. And that, of course, was a big issue with the Buckman heretofore. So curious what those mean in these contexts.
And Mr. Chair, member Ives, my understanding of it, and I'm sure AECOM could give a much more complete answer, is that the sedimentation analysis is of the sediment that's in the river that they would be analyzing. And the diversion design would be a design that would take that into account and actually be the structural part of the facility that is the diversion itself. That's the way that I read it, but
I'm afraid
that's a
I will just-
layperson's
Yeah, no, me too.
conclusion.
Yeah, it just wasn't clear that, and again, having lived through the litigation previously, just knowing those two components are so critical to working in the
Yes.
Rio Grande. Yeah, I
Yep.
hope.
And I did see the one individual that you mentioned, I think Andrews, that is a PhD. And I know on the prior project, they did have some consultants and PhDs like out of UNM that were looking at that. So I think that's common to have, that particular specialty that's done by a PhD.
And then had a question or two towards the back of the document, page 10, the paragraphs dealing with warranties, reliance, and B, C, and D on that page. And it notes at the bottom of the page that the contractor shall not be responsible for failure of the BDD's contractors, engineers, vendors, or suppliers to comply with their respective contract documents. So I'm wondering if they're not looking at that, who is? But they do seem to have, they'll evaluate the builder's design alternatives. They'll evaluate the design builder's design. They'll provide construction inspection services. Some of those seem to relate to doing that category of work. So I just had felt a tension between those provisions and Exhibit A, which is the scope of work.
Yes, and member, I was in negotiating, these were some recommended inclusions by AECOM, and it was much more inclusive, and we pared it down to this. But what they said is that they of course cannot be responsible if what our contractors or consultants do not comply with their own contracts. Not that they wouldn't be advising us as to whether they're complying or not, or providing inspection services, they will certainly do that. But they cannot be a guarantee of work on other firms' contracts.
Understood, but they would be advising us as to whether or not that work has been done in accord with those other contracts.
That's correct.
Okay, good.
With their design, the design and the inspections would cover that too.
Yeah, because they, I think, are also agreeing to review invoices and make sure they're appropriate for payment. And that, of course, means that that work has been performed. So just wanted to be
Yes, no, it was a question we had for them too.
very clear on that point. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Anybody else? No? Are we ready to move this forward or not?
Move to approve.
Second?
Thank you. We got a motion from Councilor Romero Worth, a second from Commissioner Hughes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, it's unanimous. Thank you very much. Good job, guys. I must say this was a very important step, so great job. And good job for the city for helping us procure this in a proper but alternative fashion. So we like that. Thank you. Moving on. Item B, request for approval to reauthorize unexpended funds approved by the BDD board from the BDD Major Repair and Replacement Fund from fiscal year 24 to fiscal year 25. Kurt, you're up.
Thank you, Chair Green. Members of the board and partners, I'm here to submit this request to reauthorize funding for the MRRF into fiscal year 25. These are funds that were appropriated by the board, agreed to by the partners. They agree to pay up front for major repair and replacement projects. And what this does is at the end of every fiscal year, all those projects do have to be closed out in the accounting system and then re-entered into the upcoming fiscal year. This is an annual housekeeping item. We missed doing it due to staff transition. It was an oversight back in, typically this would happen in August or September. We are doing it here on May 1st. But we will put this in place to, again, as we close out this fiscal year, go through an analysis with staff and see what projects still remain that have been authorized and have not had funds expended. We'll do that more timely next year. But again, this is a list of projects. They all had procurements open last year. We do not have to go through the procurement process again. It's a standard process for the city. We'll simply reauthorize it and reopen them in this fiscal year. And I stand for any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the board?
Move to approve.
Thank you. Got a motion from Councilor Romero Worth, a second from Councilor Cassett. All those in favor, say aye. 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 All those opposed? Hearing none, it's unanimous. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 8, matters from the board. Anybody got something up? Councilor Cassett. Thanks. You're done with budget meetings, right? Oh, you've got 2 more days, but yeah. Yes. He's killing you. Yes. Councilor Romero Worth. Nothing. Ralph.
Mr. Chairman, I have one item, and I just want to bring it up. In the last month and a half, I've been getting lots of questions about water supply and how dry things are. And I think most everybody here realizes we're for precipitation now. Just saw a report that it's the driest year on record for the last 4 months, at least from December, in 130 years of record. So very, very dry. But on the water situation, I think it's a good news situation because the city and county and others have been preparing for years and have gone through drought, right? But the point that comes up and what my answer is, it's not Buckman Direct Diversion Board that you need to go to kind of get a feel for the bigger picture of the water supply in the Santa Fe City County area. And but I wanted to bring that up to you all. I think I know there are other presentations and things that are out there. I'd like to be able to direct people a little better. And so if I had some more information on where that was for both the city and county, I think that'd be helpful.
Thanks.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, we can certainly, I think we're talking about, I know I talked to Nancy, so Jesse Roach, Dr. Jesse Roach, who's the interim director of the Public Utilities Department for the city, is doing a presentation, I believe, on the 15th of May on Zoom. That advertising is just starting. It's called What's Up with Water. Going to give a big picture overview of where we are and kind of what we're all experiencing. So there's that. Also, the city's website can speak to the conservation efforts, to the 40 and 80-year water planning, which I'm sure will be in Dr. Roach's presentation. So we've had a very dry winter, and there's been ongoing work to mitigate what we're experiencing. So I think it's a great opportunity for people to become more aware of what's happening and the work that's going on.
I think it would.
Well, and I guess, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Mr.
go ahead.
Chair. I think that presentation is going to come to us too. So if you don't catch it, and I think it'll also be available on the city website. So there'll be lots of opportunity, but
Out too. So
yeah.
That's great. I think like all these, just to follow, put a little point on that, all of these sort of water resource presentations and knowledge base should, if there's a page on our website that can be used for updated sort of forecasts that, some people might not, whether the county people want to look somewhere and say, we can point them to the BDD website as well as the cities as well, say it once, say it twice, say it 3 times, and people will find it. And in the internet, that's how you find things. That's how it goes to the top of search lists, is it's listed 3 times. So great. Commissioner? Anything today? Tom? All good. Peter? Wonderful. I think that's it. I think we're done. Wonderful. Thank you very much. The next meeting is Thursday, June 5th. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Excellent.
second it.
We're done. Thank you.